Radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yes, it is. And also, this is the only place that tells you to think about your retirement, because age is catching up with you, and this is the time when you're productive. When you're productive, save a little for the days when you'll not be as productive, but you will be needing to spend just as much. City, why are you smiling?
I'm smiling because as you get older, you actually need to spend more, not less.
Yeah.
Remember, as I mentioned in passing, you're to an age where now you start replacing body parts.
But yes. Start buying spare parts.
Yep.
So you buy them in advance. Keep
Or
them in
have
store.
the money ready in advance so that when you need to replace, whether it's a kneecap, it's an elbow cap.
All those things.
Yes.
Hey, what? Because it'll come. So how do you save best for retirement? Think about the Taifa Pension Fund. TaifaPensionFund.com. They take in the tier 2. It's a very well managed fund, and it has benefits. Enhanced life insurance benefits for all members who enjoy a death in service benefit, 3 times annual salary payable to beneficiaries, as well as critical illness, retrenchment, and permanent total disability benefits. Imagine. Also, enhanced medical benefits. Members can save for medical needs and receive post-retirement medical cover from the CPF Post-Retirement Medical Fund. Those things that we're talking about. Now you start buying kneecaps and elbow caps and what else? Right?
Hip replacement.
Hip replacement and all.
Teeth.
You save for medical needs and you receive post-retirement medical cover from the CPF Post-Retirement Medical Fund. Ease of access. The Taifa Pension Fund has a national presence and the branches in every region for easy access by members. There's an online portal that's accessible for customers 24/7 and provides real-time access to one's statement at no extra cost. When you're thinking about all these things, just go to TaifaPensionFund.com and get more details. Senior? Yeah, we've also been that's ease of saving for retirement. Ease of banking.
Yes. Easy banking is what we're looking at with Kenya's #1 private bank, and that's Stanbic. So making life just a little bit easier for you, isn't it? Talk about seamless and personalized banking. So you come in, there's somebody to cater to your needs, just you. Digital solutions accessible to you on the go. So you think about banking from your mobile phone, from your tablet, whatever it is that you're doing. So you don't have to go and be in the crowds of people. Exclusive private suite. So you're in a place, just you and your personal banker. It's comfort, it's discretion, it's dedicated private. It's a dedicated private banker, and it's dedicated banking. It's an experience that really is going to take you to the level where you realize, actually, this is why they are the private bank. This is why they are the #1 private bank, and making sure that all your banking needs are made easy with Stanbic.
Very good. Let's have a health conversation, a research conversation. And, we've been having this conversation with our friends from the Camry Wellcome Trust research program. Today, we are going to talk about genomic surveillance. Now, that one alone is already now throwing you off. Genomic surveillance. Creating awareness on the importance of genomic surveillance in response to outbreaks. And the person who's joining us is the bioinformatics lead at the Camry Wellcome Trust Research Program, Dr. George Givenji. Dr. Harry, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Oh, thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
Very good.
Thank you.
Early in the morning when you talked about this, we said, this guy is going to come and tell us about, the 666 on the forehead. And this is how we do the surveillance.
We do science.
Such related matters.
And such others, right? Well, we don't know. You will tell us what is bioinformatics, what is genomic surveillance, and all that. But before that, City has the day's proverb. He'll give you the proverb from which country this week?
DRC.
Very good.
An interesting country, this one. It has many, many, many firsts.
Many firsts.
Oh yes, it does. It does. It does. One, it is one of the very few countries. Well, it's the only country in Africa that was once owned by an individual. Okay, the King of Belgium. Okay, it has the world's deepest river. Now you may not think so, but Congo River is the world's deepest river.
Right.
Okay. Well, this one is the third largest river by discharge also, given the distributaries and whatever else moves around it.
Third largest river by discharge.
Yes.
In the world.
Yeah. You know that river,
What?
when you look at it, it's actually, your idea of a river is something whose boundaries you can easily see. That it is huge.
This is a lake.
Yes, it is. It is a moving lake. Anyway, that is DRC.
Very good.
Yes, and its qualities. The rain does not fear the authority of a king.
The rain does not fear the authority of a king. Dr. Gerenji, what's your interpretation of this problem?
The rain does not fear the authority of the king. That's quite a deep one. And
It comes from the country with the deepest river.
oh, indeed, isn't it? Well, yeah, no pun intended. I think it just sort of looks at our inabilities to control certain events, in the sense that you could be or hold immense power over people, but you can't hold that against the world and natural phenomena. And as such, it'll beat you as much as it'll beat a poor man, even though you're the king.
You put it very well, thank you.
Kabisa?
Kabisa.
Very good. Very good.
Nature is a great equalizer.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. It brings all of you together.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. What is bioinformatics?
Bioinformatics. We could sort of, look at the word itself. We have bio and we have informatics. And often in biology, we generate a lot of data, a copious amount of data. When you're doing your experiments, when you're, looking at specific things, and often you can't go through those data, manually, and therefore you need, a computer to help you do that. You need proprietary software in some instances, but you would need a dedicated informatics tool. And the people who develop those tools, the people who work with those tools, apply them, in as far as our understanding of biomedical research data, are bioinformaticians. And they tend to be multidisciplinary. And therefore, you'll have your biology. For example, my basic undergraduate degree is in biomedical sciences, which in itself is a multidisciplinary degree, comprises of biochemistry and genetics, human anatomy, and understanding epidemiology. And then there is the computer science aspect of it, which you need to know how to look at data, algorithms, for example, that basically, recipes for, accomplishing a task by a computer. And bringing together those fields, including statistics, makes for this sort of a career in bioinformatics.
So you are all those things? You're a
have
biomedical scientist,
Yes.
you're a computer scientist, and you're a statistician.
yes.
Dr. When you want to do these courses, were they not simpler courses?
It depends on what you define as simpler, because in my understanding, nothing is simple when you really look at it.
You could have just, for instance, studied biology just
Alone.
And then go and done media studies alone, and then done computer packages alone.
Which we all did back then. So yeah, you could do that, but then the problem that you want to tackle,
Yes.
cannot be tackled by just that subject by itself, and therefore it calls for bringing in other disciplines.
What was your journey? What interested you into the next? For example, in your biomedical sciences, is it
Right.
is it where you landed because of your marks, or did you actually want to end up there as your undergrad studies?
I actually wanted to land there.
Why?
Because I was keen on research. So I've been keen on research from high school. And I looked through the courses, and initially I thought, well, let me look at chemical engineering. And then I looked at it again. I was like, okay, this is interesting. But the cutoff, at that time was extremely high, and the class limits was very, very, very few individuals, and it was only at Moy University back then. So I looked at the odds and realized, well, I don't think I want to take this path. So I went back to JAB, as it was, the Joint Admissions Board, and I changed my course after looking through, the internet back then and realizing there's a field called biomedical sciences that takes bits of everything. And it was a relatively new course at the Edgerton University. And I went and applied, and I scored the mark. I got admitted. Along the way, I was always fascinated by computing. So right out of high school, I had done a programming course. Back then, we used to do Pascal and Basic and Visual Basic. And I started wondering, how do you get these together? And I realized that there is a room for it. And I just went on in it. And I did lots of it, self-learning, and just about when I was graduating, there were lots of workshops, opportunities were opening up. And it was, as a field, was already quite advanced in the West. And therefore, by, attending these workshops, getting exposed, having opportunities to, to collaborate, to go to the US and other places, I acquired most of these skills.
What has the, combined force really of all of this research studying, then allowed you to do in the fields for which they're important? Let's say for in Kenya today, what has that allowed to come about as a result of your research?
That's a good one. And I think it speaks to whether have had impact in what we've done. And I have to say that I feel very privileged to work at the institution where I work, and with the colleagues that I've been able to work with. So a lot of the opportunities that I've had to contribute to, particularly around bioinformatics, data analysis, pertaining to respiratory pathogens, for example, I think that's where I've made a lot of impact, just looking at the opportunities that are there, were there to, for example, establish the platforms that we've established for genomics at Kemri Wellcome Trust Research Program and Kemri overall.
Okay.
Yeah.
So genomics, I know we mentioned it before. Can we go into that a little bit to figure out, okay, so what is this thing? And what does it mean exactly? And how does it help in terms of medical research and, the possible conditions that Kenyans or others suffer from?
That's an interesting one. So we can look at the term again, and we can take a step back and understand what is really are we trying to do. So when you think about pathogens, they are either viruses, bacteria, or fungi, and at the base they have genetic material, and genomics overall is the study of that genetic material. So what we're going to do is that we're going to find that genetic material, and we're going to understand its makeup. And we're going to exploit opportunities in that genetic makeup to better understand what it is that we're dealing with. And that pertains to all living matter that has a genetic makeup. Viruses are interesting in particular because they only have that, and they then hijack other cells to make copies of themselves. I mean that in itself is very fascinating and very nerdy, which attracts me.
When you say this, you're getting the genomic material.
Yeah.
What's that? What are you getting?
So what we're getting, I should have broken down, is DNA or RNA, and in simpler terms, is the building blocks of life. All of us have an alphabet or a code, if you like, and that code is made up of 4 bases: adenine, thymine, uracil, and cytosine. And those chemicals, those 4 bases, ACGT, encode blocks of life. They go through complex processes in our body, in our cells, to make proteins and so on and so forth. And if we understand that genetic makeup, we can do quite a lot.
Is it different from person to person or from
it is
organism to
not
organism?
that different. So let's get this clear. So one, there's that what pertains to pathogens, which is, well, if you like, I don't want to use the word simple. And this, when it pertains to higher order organisms like humans and other vertebrates, it is not that different. The base copy is the same, but there are mutations or changes that makes us different. And understanding those changes, we can understand a lot. We can understand, for example, how we metabolize certain drugs, for example. We can understand why we look the way we look. And more important is that we can look back in the past and ask the question, where did we come from? Which is a fascinating topic by itself.
So when you're in a lab, just take us through practically, as simply as possible. Now take yourself back to Dr. Gethenji when he was just Gethenji in Form 2, all right?
Yeah.
What is it that you're doing? Are you in a lab looking through a microscope and looking, and what are you seeing something? Are you using a needle to extract something? When you say that you're getting the genetic material, what are you doing?
We are taking our pathogens of interest, or our cells of interest, and we are shaking them, we are perturbing them, and we extracting the genetic material, which is the DNA. You're using different processes and steps, and once we have that, we then going to take it through an instrument called a sequencer. And through that, we are going to translate those chemicals to an alphabet comprising of A, C, G, T, G, G, A, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And that is what we are going to work with moving forward.
Okay. So what does it help you do?
What it helps us to do is quite a lot, depending on where it comes from. And I'll mostly restrict myself to that genetic material that comes from pathogens, infectious pathogens.
From disease?
That cause disease.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
yes. So the pathogen is the
disease-causing agent.
Exactly.
Thank
there
you.
we go. There we go. We're on it now. So that is what we're going to restrict ourselves to. And what we really going to do once we get that genetic material, we're going to ask us a couple of questions. One of them is if one of us was, sneezing, for example, or had an ailment, and we all have information that we were together somewhere, and we all started sneezing out there, and we provided a sample, and we extracted the genetic, the disease-causing pathogen. It probably could be a virus, it could be a bacteria. We can then look at the genetic makeup of those pathogens and ask ourselves, is it identical? Is it similar? And if there are big differences, then it is likely that, if there are no differences, and we have information that at some point, we were in a room together, then we could argue that it came from one of us. One of us, infected
the
the
one
other.
source.
Yes.
And then it distributed.
And if one of us, for example, or all of us had very different genetic material, or those pathogens had very different genetic material, then it's very unlikely that we got infected from one individual. It's very likely that we got it elsewhere. And that information is very important when it comes down to... Yeah.
Can you repeat what you just said? If you all have it, if you're all sneezing, and you're able to now, you've taken the makeup of this pathogen, because you've done a sample from everybody, and it is similar.
Yes.
Then it is
all identical.
Or identical.
Yeah.
It is unlikely that you got it from the same.
If it is identical, you likely got it.
You likely got it from the same place.
Yes.
Okay.
Only if we have information that
all of you were together.
You all went to a concert on Friday, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were all together at an event, and either we didn't have it or one of us had it.
Okay, got
That
it.
is very important because the added information, genomics by itself, the sequence data is not very informative if we don't have other information, on it. And the other important thing is how soon or how quick do we get it. Yes.
You guys were together yesterday in the morning, but by yesterday 4 p.m., all of you were sneezing. Right.
Yeah. That's a simpler version.
Is this so now genomic sequencing, such a fancy term? Is this the same idea that is behind tracing when it comes to diseases?
Patient zero,
COVID-19, Mpox or Ebola.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's having that information in addition to other information about, the diseased people. Where did they come from? What was their age? What symptoms did they have? And a very clean or clear line list in terms of, that's a big term, information about the collection or the infectious patterns, for example. So that can really help us.
Then the other side that you said was it's possible that all of you are sneezing, but when Dr. Githinji goes to the lab, he'll find that these pathogens are not similar.
Yes.
And so now here you'll have an issue.
You have an issue there because then if we find them to be very different, it implies that it is each of us have their own pathogen that they came in with from somewhere else.
Where?
And so that could be, I imagine that would be potentially worse.
Yes, because it means that there is a lot going out there
that you do not know.
That we do not know.
So you need now to start spreading.
Now we need to
fear to get more information.
Yes, we need to have more information.
CT, where were you yesterday? Who were you with? Eric, where were you? Who were you with? And so on and so forth.
And now you can imagine the situation where, as a public health official, as a government or a health agent, getting that information as soon as possible or in near real time, it can really impact on the control measures that you put in.
I just want to ask before we go. So we would ask then, I know you talk about control measures, but then why else would it be extremely important to do this? Because folks are going to be like, okay, so what? You're sneezing, there's a disease burden, we know it's there, treat, move on. Why is it important to sequence all of this and to do that research when there's an outbreak of whatever it may be?
Now, we're going to put a little bit over another scenario. Let's say we're not just sneezing, but it's a hemorrhagic fever. And now we've upped the stakes. Fatalities are happening.
People are
dying.
People are dying.
And people are panicking. And therefore then having that information about what is causing that becomes really, really important. And also understanding the transmission patterns. And whether we actually know what it is that is causing that. Often, most of these ailments have overlapping symptoms. So if you bleeding, if you sneezing, if you coughing, you diarrhea, it could be one of a myriad things, like people have those sort of symptoms. If you have a common cold, which, if you're an adult, maybe that's not such a big thing. But if you have something else, then that becomes really important to understand.
You have a dry cough, you're short of breath, you're...
So it becomes really, really important to get that information as soon as possible. But more important is the potential to understand the spread. And which demographics or which populations are getting affected, and whether we already know what it is, so that then we can, start implementing measures.
Very good. Let's take a break. If you'd like to be like Dr. George Githinji, you're on your own.
I think you got lots of company.
But you can listen to him and hear what he and the others are doing. He is the bioinformatics lead at the Kelmri Wellcome Trust Research Program. They are doing a lot, and if just thinking about what we have seen recently in terms of disease outbreaks and disease spread, getting to understand what this is and how it's spreading is very important. That's why we're talking about genomic surveillance and the importance of it in response to outbreaks. He's breaking it down to us nicely. There are many people who are not getting. For example, there is a Paul Omondi who's saying, us guys are used to political content.
This is good.
Yes? Hey.
Oh, but this is the heart of political.
This is it, right?
Yes.
If you have the same people, 349 of them, and they're behaving the same way, they're thinking the same way, and they were all in parliament at the same
You
time.
need to put them under a microscope.
I can find out what the problem is.
Genomic sequence.
Yes.
City. Okay. There's studying in Ireland.
Yes, there is.
And there's a study in Ireland fair happening
Yes, there
this
is.
month. What date?
Well, this is the 9th of November. November is actually this particular month, okay?
Yes.
If you wait until next month, it will be December and the fair won't be there. Okay? Right? So, focus. Right. This fair takes place at Gallant Mall in Parklands.
Yes.
You are required to register in order to receive an invitation. Now, when you receive the invitation will be from Cradle, okay? Now, you may say, how on earth do I get to register? Well, you go to www.cradle.com. And I've said many W's. I've given you a choice. Decide how many W's you need, okay? And the colleges that you are likely or you will find featured in this fair are Griffith College, University of Galway, Ndu's favorite, University of Limerick, Dublin City University, Technological University of the Shannon, Independent College, and University College Cork. These are universities in Ireland. But in addition to this, you will be able to get direct access to these universities. You will also discover career opportunities. In Kenya, we have a problem, not just with the careers, but we call them jobs here, okay? Ireland offers you an opportunity that you may not necessarily have here, okay? So, please register.
Very good.
Please.
Yeah. We'll be back shortly, 24 to 10.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start.
I know mkuna talents, lakini mkuna vibe. It's time to discover East Africa's newest talent. Ni mda wa Kenya kuchachisha. Anguka nayo ka TikToker, utuonyeshe hizi stars zako.